Taimur Jumblat. Have you ever seen him wear a t-shirt? No. You want to know why? Because عنده sleeve tattoos من هون ايه ايه داليا جنبلاط ended up marrying a Christian man اللي هو تبع MTV. طب ليه هن اوكي Christian درزة بس انه العالم الباقي لا. You know what it is? And the thing that's the funniest thing of it all. And their kids are pretty much like people who used to go to the same parties as us. They used to, hang out with us, the same drugs as us, and do everything. But when it comes to go back to like their families, no, a lot of them still support their parents, and a lot of them are. They have this like في disconnection. ما بش عم بفهم أنا كيف هيدي بتجي. It's like a paradox عنا بالبلد.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode on A to the Show. You got Saeed in London and Ali in LA. We're going to be joined by Stéphani Moukhaiber from Canada.
Stéphani is the founder of Rawiya, an independent digital magazine that discusses Lebanese news for the diaspora around the world.
And today we'll be talking about the state of journalism in Lebanon, the rise of the independent artists and content creators in the region, and the political climate in Lebanon as well.
Stéphani's background in political and social activism, as well as her experience in the corporate world, bring a unique perspective to the conversation.
So get ready for an insightful and thought-provoking episode with Stéphani Moukhaiber. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Well, Rawiya technically is not necessarily a journal. So it's a digital magazine. And it specifically right now focuses on Lebanon in its entirety. So we have multiple subjects and topics that we abort, like tourism, politics, economics, technology, innovation, art, etc., etc., etc. But a lot of the articles that we write are not necessarily investigative, like journalism type of articles. They're sometimes stories, they're sometimes blogs, and they're sometimes opinion pieces. From the stories, though, one of my best ones is an interview that we had with one of my best artists, or my most favorite artist in Lebanon, and her name is Adra Kondil. She goes by the Instagram Dear Nostalgia, and it's because the way that she speaks about her art and the way that she speaks about her work is very, I guess I relate to it a lot because I'm an immigrant and I have a lot of nostalgia and romanticization towards my country. So from there, after we interviewed Adra, it was very important for me to keep following her work and supporting her work. So that is by far one of my favorite stories that we showcased on the magazine. However, the magazine doesn't just focus on stories. As I mentioned, we have a bunch of articles. And in February, we're going to be releasing re-releasing, let's say, a new and improved version of Riwayatna, which is solely focused on stories of people in the Arab world or the Swana world, let's say, because this is where the magazine is heading towards soon.
Incredible. I want to know a little bit about what makes that your favorite story. Dear Nostalgia. I'm a big fan of her art. And so what to you makes that, So my favorite thing about Lebanon is that it has a lot of great artists, a lot of culture, like a lot, in a very small place. There's so many comedians, so many like amazing people that we've had the chance to meet too.
Very true.
So I'm always trying to think like what are the best guests? For the podcast? Who are the most interesting people and why? So you want to tell us about your experience?
Yeah. It's very tricky when you say like that, especially nowadays, because in the last year or year and a half, artists in the Middle East have been emerging like no other, and they've been very successful at what they're doing. Their names is being showcased on New York Times, in Magnum photos. Like you have Miriam Boulos, who's a very, very amazing photographer in Lebanon. She's also on the team of Al Haya magazine, so she really takes on a lot of the photography or photo editing of that magazine. You also have artists who, as you mentioned, you said comedians, but you also have artists in terms of singers and rappers. And then you have digital illustrators like Aphrodite is my sister, or as I mentioned, Jordan or Ivan Dibis or Sama Beirut. Like there's so many people right now that are creating absolutely amazing things. And they're going into, some of them are going into NFTs, some of them are going into Web3 as well. So it's very nice to see that they are, you know, following the trends, but also making a names out of themselves. One of right now, my best artists, let's say DJ artists, because also we have a lot of emerging DJs. She is, well, actually, sorry, they are Lebanese, British. They reside right now in London. Their name is Salia, and they had their Boiler Room debut, I guess like around a month ago. The music was so insane. I put that set on YouTube for maybe, I don't know, like on replay twice or three times, and I shit you not, I was standing in front of my TV just like bumping up and down and going like, oh, I need to work, but this is so good, and this is so good. And it's because they're introducing Arabic music to techno and electronic music, and that's something that we haven't seen yet. And it's just insane of like the amount of creativity and how they're, you know, channeling their culture and heritage in sort of music that, you know, we never necessarily cared for. When I was in Beirut now in the summer in 2022, I also saw kind of like the underground scene emerge a little bit harder than usual. Really, like the underground scene in Beirut is off the charts. Every single week there was a new artist coming in, and the cool thing is that they're debuting at multiple different venues as well, and venues that are, you know, open to the queer community, or venues that are open to mostly let's say like feedback rooms. So they go and they just have these parties for people to give feedback on their music, but not necessarily to really just dance and party at the same time. Things are changing in the art scene in Beirut. They're evolving and they're coming back, especially after the Beirut blast. We saw studios reopening. For example, like Salim Azam, the fashion designer, reopened his studio. We saw, for example, Elias Allah, the founder of Plastic Studios, as well, reopen his spot in Jemaise. So, yeah, I think artistry in Lebanon is a thing because we harbor so much of the trauma that we have, and they channel it into the art. And it's very relatable to us because we are also children of trauma, you know, as much as we like not say it, we are. And so we really relate to that work because it's, at the end, it's very empathetic, and it's very personal to us and our families and our history and like what we live, especially as immigrants as well, you know. So
yeah, it's true. And there's something about hard times, I feel like, that makes people shine a bit more or work extra hard, you know, because right now, you know, they used to tell us when we were kids, being an engineer or being a lawyer or a doctor, that's the way to go. But I'm now everyone Lebanon's kind of not anymore, unfortunately. And so you have to really try to get creative. And with the whole internet and the whole world, the amount of internet entrepreneurs you've met is actually also ridiculous.
Like if you take a look at, for example, if you just take a second and try to reflect or think about, you know, people who are known, who have known names in Lebanon, that you could refer to like on social media or Instagram, none of them are business owners. Barely any of them have startups. And if they have startups, they're mostly either in fashion or in art, or in music. It's never like, oh, cool, do you know this like business consultant? And like, he's doing so cool. Care about that, you know, like really, if you think about it, it's all really DJ, artist, painter, sculptor, photographer, whatever it is. So I think that's what's really cool about Lebanon, because I mean, honestly, it could be also a double-edged sword, because really the business, like the successful business people are usually like people from the government and like really, but it could be, you know, that, but I think that's what makes us special, you know?
And there's a thing about art too that's healing on its own, right? Like music, writing the music and listening to music. That's why it's so popular, is that, you know, makes you feel better and able to like take a complex situation and make it so that you can process it.
Definitely.
So I want to know, what do you do with like your work? Are you trying to make some kind of change, or is it mostly you're reporting on stories or writing your own opinion articles?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your
Um,
approach?
so I guess maybe to better explain that, maybe I could take it back to where Rawiya started and how it started.
Mm-hmm.
So 2019, Lebanese revolution happened. 2020, we were still mobilizing on the streets in Lebanon. That's way before the Beirut blast and way before Corona hit, which is like in March, April. So here I was in Montreal, but I was very much an avid mobilizer here. So all the protests, everything was going on here. I was one of the people who were organizing them. But that was part of a diaspora network called مغتربين مجتمعين, or United Diaspora in English, which I was the head of their comms committee at the time. And people from the network came to us with this idea of a digital magazine distinctively for the diaspora. And we loved the idea. And then Corona hit, we had absolutely nothing to do. We're like, oh, let's try. Obviously, none of us really had any experience in it. We didn't, I mean, I'm a business consultant. I'm just laughing at myself, but I am not. So like, and we had lawyers and real estate advisors on the team, and we really didn't know where to start, but we started just getting a little bit of articles here, getting someone to edit it a little bit, and then we're like, oh no, and then we need to package it nicely, and then we need to have a cover art. And so we started building on it and creating our processes, our editorial processes and stuff. And it was really because we thought that after Corona hit, obviously no more protests were happening on the streets, the diaspora felt alienated once again. So at the middle of the revolution, it emerged everywhere around the world. We emerged as مغتربين مجتمعين. We were protesting in 45 cities. It was a historical thing, an unprecedented thing where the diaspora really took charge or really wanted to show that they cared. So we used the Rawiya as kind of like a gateway to help us continue this message, or to help us really bridge the gap between Lebanon and the diaspora. And we wanted to make it in a way that's cool, fun, edgy, not in Arabic as well, because not a lot of people are Arabic speakers, and we were trying to cater for first, second, third generation immigrants as well. And some of our people on the team did not even speak Arabic. They were either half French, half Lebanese, or half American, half Lebanese, born and raised there. So we wanted it to be as inclusive as possible. And a lot of our articles they're not timely articles. We don't like tidbits of news that come up. We like to publish things full context on the present, the past, the past, the present, and the future of the certain issue, so that we're able to give people who are reading it full context, full information on the issue or on the story, and potentially gear them up with some solutions. So should they decide to act on it, they know exactly what to do. And that's how we started at Rawiya. Now, moving forward with Rawiya, it's still going to be the same. And now we're trying to make it a little bit more cool, a little bit organized, if you want. So we're kicking it off with, as I mentioned, a new segment of Riwayatna. We're kicking it off with podcasts soon. We're going to be, showcasing the community a little bit more, because that's what we're all about. We're all about people. We're all about the community. And we're all about, fostering these connections between our various communities, be it in Lebanon or outside of Lebanon. Because at the end of the day, we don't have just Lebanese people living in Lebanon. You have a lot of others that do need our help, that do need our voices, and they do need our platform. So that's why we have a big human rights section as well in our magazine that really talks about the queer community, violence against women, abolishing the kafala system. And these are very, very important causes for us that we want to also showcase on our platform all the time. So that's how it came to be, and that's how we're doing it. And it's a very important project. And I think I shouldn't be saying project anymore, because it no longer is a project. It takes blood, sweat, and tears from me every single day. But what I love about it is that, we're a team of 16 people. We all volunteer for it. We haven't really made a single penny off of this magazine so far. We live in different time zones. People sometimes wake up at 2 a.m. in Australia, so they can be on the meetings that people in LA can join, for example, or like vice versa. And it's been going on for 2 years. So if you have a team of 16 people that are working for free for 2 years, it means that what you're doing is something important, and we love it.
I'll agree.
I
Part of
actually
what
have a question, Ali, if you don't mind.
go side, Jamal.
Why do you say it says my full name like that?
Yeah, so
I
people
ever
can
heard it.
know who you are and stuff like that,
Thank you.
listeners and stuff.
Thank you.
Side Jamal, go ahead.
Caught me off guard. What I wanted to ask was, so you mentioned that you're gonna start doing podcasts as well. So what are like key questions would you ask on these podcasts, or like general
Right
debates?
now we're going on basically themes of, so we haven't really shot any single episode yet. We're trying to get funding for the podcast a little bit because we can't really pay for everything from from our pockets. But it's going to be themed. And ideally what we're looking for right now is, as I mentioned, to really showcase community. So right now we are going with actually, I really can't say, this is a little bit confidential, but we're going to be showcasing like released movies about the situation in Beirut. We're going to be talking about violence against women with big feminist activists in Lebanon. We're going to be talking about the queer community as well, and how the LGBT, well, let's say the laws on Mujtama al-Mim in Lebanon, how are they evolving? How are they changing? What happened during the summer when they canceled Beirut Pride, and how did that affect the community? We're going to be talking about some intersectionality between our environment and gender, so like climate and gender. Right now, the scarcity of water in our region is a very important topic, and it will be coming out, just you wait, very soon. It will become a thing in the next year or two. And the very important thing here is that we never really look at climate change and how it impacts women, or how the differences of impact is on men versus women. So that's something that we're also looking into, bringing in as well, like activists and stuff, because at the end of the day, as much as we can also talk about it, we don't want to be the people who are, we're not what's it called? Like, we're not experts in these fields. So like what you're doing, you're bringing guests, and these are the guests that we would like to really convey this information. We could do it in articles, but also conversations are much better and they're more personal. So that's what we're striving, but we won't be releasing anything before March. So that's kind of like our next,
I see. That's the context. This is everything is the full story. We're not going to take things without the full information.
Definitely.
And like what I want to know your opinion on all this.
Well, when it comes to, so the thing is with Lebanon is a very complicated country, right? Like
You're changing her phrases like Is this what journalism does? That media trains you so well that you have to watch out for every word you have to say?
No. It's more because like I'm trying to articulate what I want to say. So Lebanon is a very complicated country in a sense where people people take things like at face value in a way that they don't read between the lines. They never take a moment to take a step back and think of, oh, why was this done? Why was this said? How was this said? Like, never. It's
very reactionary. Just like what happens, you directly react. You don't rationalize or think about it.
And that sometimes has a big backlash on the things that you release and the content that you write, right? Because خلاص انه people in Lebanon have been so disappointed for so long, and it's like حيلا شي بتقولها برات الطريق or شي مش عاجبهم, they're gonna attack. And I understand that. I understand where it's coming from. It's not necessarily the right way of doing it, because I feel like right now, like in Lebanon, cancel culture is becoming rampant. But when it comes to fake news and when it comes to things that are very tricky, let's say, and نحن, for example, for Rawiya, the baseline of what we do and the people that we approach for news or articles, first of all, none of them can have any connections to the government. None of them should like have any sectarian relationships or any sectarian beliefs. We are an independent magazine, but we're not biased. That's the thing. We are very much biased. We are an alternative media platform. We will never have anyone that goes against our values and against like what we have fought for the last 3 years on our platform. So for us, it's very important to keep our integrity. Like things that go on like with fake news and clickbaity articles, you have other websites that do that. Like, fucking articles. Oh my God. And they're everywhere. But that's not what we want to do. And I don't care if we have 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, even 50. If I feel like, if I'm able to say before I go to bed that whatever information or content I release is transparent, it's honest, and it's respecting, the people that, you're targeting or, your audience, then I'm good for that. And I don't care how many people are going to follow my work or how many people are going to follow the magazine, because خلاص انه we're trying to change, we're trying to change our old habits. We're unlearning all of the things that we've learned in Lebanon. And a lot of that is exposure and fame and like, and it's not about that. It's really about conveying the important issues and fighting a system, it's fighting a system. What we hope to do with Rawiya is to change and educate and inform. Right? So how are you supposed to fight a system if you're really, behaving like them and, releasing fake news and fake clickbaity things that absolutely don't make sense?
It's like the David side, Jamal.
It's just this theory that I was actually thinking about a few days ago. So when you were talking about the magazine, the paper, it's gonna be like everything that you want it to be very genuine and natural. And you were talking about how you don't want it to be clickbaity. And I was thinking about this theory where, so at the moment, because you're basically still a volunteer, technically, you're not getting paid. You're not making money out of this. I feel like the moment it switches to an actual job and you're actually getting paid or you're making money out of it, that's when it's less of a hobby. And you slowly start to the appreciation or like the enjoyment factor of it starts to decline from there.
I could challenge you on that, actually.
You're saying if we make money on this, then we're not gonna enjoy it, Said?
not enjoy it, but we will start declining. It's like law of diminishing returns. Because right now, when you're not getting paid, you're still in the creative form. You're like, oh, what works? Let's experiment. Let's test. So you're just like, it's like you're a little child who just learned how to walk and just wants to go and walk around.
There is a little bit of truth in what you're saying for sure. But I think when it comes to Rawiya per se, so Rawiya we registered in the US as a company in June. So it's very, very recent. But we have released our first issue in 2021. We had a team of 4 different co-founders. I wasn't the only one. A lot of turmoil happened. A lot of people had to leave. A lot of, like my team stormed like a motherfucker. انه خزقنا بعض عن جد. And that was before money was involved and anything like that. Like to us, I don't think انه بالعكس, I feel like once we start getting a little bit of money, it's going to be a little bit of a relief, because I work 80 hours a week now, or 90 hours a week, balancing my full-time job at Rawiya and my third project, which is called Immigrant. So I feel like it will be a little bit of sigh of relief, but not even for me, because I feel I have a team, as I mentioned, I have a team of over 10 people, and they've really been doing everything for free. And to me, what I would like to give to them and in return back is really to appreciate their work and be able to compensate their work. for me, Rawiya is a passion of mine. Whether I get paid for it or not, right now is not like a huge deal. Ideally, hopefully, in the next 2 years, I would love to be self-employed. Who wouldn't like to be self-employed? You know, but I would never not care for it and like reduce my level of how I, like the level of how do you say, creativity or whatever, like the time I put into it. It's going to be a pain in the ass. It's already is a pain in the ass, and sometimes I'm like, what the fuck, why am I doing it? I have so much potential to create change. Like, it's insane. It's insane. And for me, just knowing that, like, no amount of money is going to take that away from me, or like take away at least my drive to make it happen, or like take it further and further and further. Now, for example, Rawiya is only focused on Lebanon and people in Lebanon and outside of Lebanon. In June, this is no longer going to be a thing. Rawiya is going to be expanding towards the Arab world and the Swana world as well, because we have the same fight. So there's absolutely no way that I'm going to just be like, oh, give me money, and then I'm going to just sit on my little chair and like put a little bit of effort in it. No.
No, I agree to that too. If anything, it'll help support and get a bigger audience. I'm sure you're gonna have to do new things and find more creative ways.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, exactly. But
Definitely.
yeah, I think we'll still, even with us, the more we grow, I don't think it'll stifle us. It's just, why do we need to live in this world where all the news is clickbait and all the media you don't trust? Why don't you instead offer a better solution of, hey, this is a reputable news magazine that you can trust, and they do cool things. Sometimes they're entertaining, and yeah,
Sometimes
I would sometimes
yeah,
they're challenging. Like I would buy into that. That sounds like the exact gap we have that needs to be filled.
yeah. Listen,
And
because
then,
if you really think about it, right now there's only maybe one or two platforms that caters to the Lebanese in Lebanon and the diaspora, that's digital, that's accessible, that's free. The rest of the magazines are very much concentrated on niche markets. So like they're print, they're either talking about fashion or culture, or they're feminist magazines, which are awesome because yes, they do have a lot of topics, but they are very concentrated on something, right? The cool thing about Rawiya is that it offers content for everyone, young, old, like Lebanese immigrants, Arab now immigrants, not immigrants. It gives topics on business, on technology, on politics, on economics, on arts, and on human rights, and the things that people not necessarily want to see every day. And it's funny because I use my family as my own testing grounds, right? Like I call my dad and I'm like, did you read the article? And be like, no. I'm like, why? Didn't you like it? It's not a topic that you're interested in. What are you interested? Because what we're also trying to do is not necessarily just target our generation, which is right now like our main audience is a millennial generation, but I want to target people like our parents, because I feel like once it starts translating from them and their own conversations translating to their children, things are going to start changing as well. Mind you, they still have like, let's say, another 10-15 years of voting rights, so got to do something about that.
So in a way, you're trying to convince the older generations to change their minds on how they're voting by connecting them to the younger generation.
Yeah. And
Okay.
see how we also think. Do you know how many times I've sat on the kitchen table and I've had like intense conversations with my parents and with my dad, or like with my dad's friends, or oh my God. And sometimes I want to rip myself to shreds and I'm like, ugh. But it's important, it's important.
It's a very good propaganda machine theory that you just created. I mean, you're in the right field, so it works.
How?
It's like
explain, Said.
Propaganda.
Trying to send some subliminal messages to the older generations through their kids and just be
Well,
like,
it's not subliminal. It's right in there.
That's so funny.
It's not even subliminal. I don't even do subliminal stuff. Like, it's cool that I at least it's I'm grateful that I come from a family where I can really like voice my opinions and whatnot. And that's like why I have a lot of heated conversations about these things, but I never hide, and I never like try to hide my intentions, because at the end of the day, I do believe that if you want to inspire change or impact change or change something, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to punch someone in the face and like make them understand the situation and be realistic about things, you know? And unfortunately, our parents had a very difficult life. They've seen things that we haven't seen. They've lived things we haven't lived. And even though we are very much in these days, we're in the comparison mode of, oh, before الحرب and بعد الحرب, انه هلا مروح ما في ادويه بس بالحرب كان في ادويه. انه هولي, they're just like little details that we're now really we're occupying ourselves with. But in the general scheme of things, they lived through ways, you know, worse shit than we did. My dad was in Red Cross, كان يلم جثث عن الطريق بأيام الحرب. إنه منا هينة at the end of the day. So these conversations are really hard, but they're very necessary, because if they don't see you, their own kid, talking about these things, expressing yourself about these things, saying you don't care about religion, you don't care about this, not religion in a sense like you're a believer or not, that's up to you, but when it comes to church and state, when it comes to the government and how it works, and you know, your ability to marry whoever you want to marry, and if you want to marry, it's a social construct, it's social conditioning as well. And في كتير اشياء نحنا that we confused with cultural tradition into religious traditions. And those impact our politics, those impact our society, those impact the way we function in Lebanon, because this is how Lebanon is made. Everything is just interconnected. ما في شيء بقى إنه they're not compartmentalized يعني. So you have to have these conversations, because if they don't know that you're thinking about them, they're just going to think that you don't care.
You know, it's nice. It's important that you mentioned that, I know the conversation that we always have with our parents before and after the war. I feel like things changed quite a bit on that perspective بعد الانفجار. Once the explosion happened, I feel like our parents really changed their opinions. Hello, I'm mainly talking from personal experience. بس ما كان بسمع بقى انه قبل الحرب بعد الحرب, after the explosion. So like it feels like we were able to connect with them because we had this one traumatic experience together.
That's a very big point. Yeah,
because this in a way allows us to be able to think a bit like them and allow them to understand that we are capable of understanding how they feel. Because of their like pent up anger and like repressed emotions.
Definitely.
So this in a way connects us with them. And that's why I was not surprised when we saw in the parliamentary elections the change that happened. And it wasn't as big of a change that people want, obviously, but it's still much more than we've ever had before. Like I think it's a stepping stone, you know, we're getting there to changing how people voting is gonna be.
But if you really think about it, definitely I'm with you on that, and that it is true. Maybe parents are a little bit more, ما بدي أقول lenient, مش قصة leniency, بس قصة إنه more open to understanding how we feel and how, you know, what we have felt going through these last 3 years and being on the streets and you know, going through this entire revolution. But technically, if you really want to get into the nit and grit, where did the actual change come from when it came to the parliamentary elections? It wasn't our parents. It was our generation, and it was people abroad. It wasn't people in Lebanon. That's where, for example, the work of Mukhtabin Mujtamain came very much in handy with other diaspora networks, but the change didn't come from our parents, unfortunately. 1 in 3. No. What was the statistic? It was, I think, 3 people from 5 voted in the diaspora voted for change, and that's how it kind of translated to that. But also, mind you, like 13 people that we elected.
It's getting political, guys. Oh no.
Yeah, you're gonna piss a lot of people off with this podcast.
Stéphani, what's going on?
It's not necessarily. Listen. مش كلهم, but No, you're gonna tell me they haven't fucked كلهم ما في يعني. The thing is, they came into their role not being well groomed, right? They're people like you and I. They've never really had this like press training or whatever training. They don't know how to talk to the media. They don't know how to present themselves. They barely have like good standing in front of TV and mic. And like we saw it with Najat Saliba, we saw it with Yasin. Like the way that they speak and the things that they say, and you're like, really? And yeah, I mean, a lot of the ones, I mean, if you want me to like talk about like names, I mean, I can say like Waddah Sadiq, for example, fucking homophobe, man. So what, like, how? And those are things like مغتربين مجتمعين had a very big role to play. Like, we are the only diaspora group that actually had a seat at the table when lists were being made. We were on every single meeting مع كل الأحزاب التغييرية. Like, we had a big role, not in voting because we didn't have candidates, obviously, but we wanted to get the diaspora voice somehow. So we were very happy. We thought that we were going to get maybe five. And then we got 13. And ماشي قبل بيوم ويومين or like بعد بيوم ويومين, you have like, for example, Waddah Sadiq going and with an interview that was released talking about إنه لا هو ما بيتقبل the queer community. You have other people saying لا على الجواز المدني. خي عندك واحد فات مرة على الكول, يا الله هيدا قرطنا ضحك. هو independent, وهو ما خص, هو شو يا الله بيآمن بال يا الله what was it? It was the funniest thing on fucking earth. It was like
you're really hyping this up now.
أنا ماني sectarian بس أنا بآمن بالاندبندنس الشيء الإسلامية شيء هيك, and we're like
I see, yeah.
how are you running for ليست التغيير وبعدك عم تقول لي انه انت بتتبع الشريعة الإسلامية وبتتبع كل هو, بس انت independent, انه انت بدك انه that goes against الدولة المدنية, that goes against everything that we're asking for. طب ما خيي, طب ما نحكينا منطق انه في like في عالم really during this elections, like حتى بيروت مدينتي, for example, like they backed out last minute because they fucked up. طب ما you could have helped out another list, but لأنه هن they wanted to be on top and they get all the things. That's what like really shitty about politics in Lebanon, is that you never know the intentions behind these people. And we really supported them a lot, and it's a very big disappointment. Now we're not even halfway through the first year, so gotta give them the benefit of the doubt. They still have another 3 years. Am I totally hopeful? No, not anymore. Not anymore. What I am hopeful about is the fact that I am part of a community where I see the work that's being done underground and behind closed doors. From before the elections up until now, work is still being done. So I know that people haven't let it go. They must تسلموا بعد. There's still things that are happening. So on my end, it's cool. I have faith, I have hope that في شغل. But it's like you go and talk to like other people that have that don't know what's going on, or just disconnected completely from the country, or like these movements. بيقول لك خلص إنه البلد عم ينهار وبعده عم ينهار وما حيوقف ينهار. And just a couple of days ago, I was talking to my friend, and he's like, yeah, there's this expectation that the dollar is going to go up to meet 1,000 by the end of the year, because they want to خلص بدهم يفلسوا الكونتري, like بدهم يفلسوه completely, so that they can kind of go back to scratch and go through another Ponzi scheme of theirs, which
it doesn't have to be that case, obviously. Me and Said have a role. We're gonna Said, can we get those people on the podcast, all the people in parliament? If we have them on, we can maybe see what they're really about.
بدك جيب لك نبيه بري يعني؟
If you'll come on the podcast, we'll be more than happy. Oh my goodness.
Bro, and put this Nabi Berri in a studio with me, just like chat with him, see what happens. Listen, that's what I don't think I can. I think it has to be Zoom.
في اقول لك شيء انه ندويه بري has like he's a very underrated jokester صراحة. As a monster he doesn't deserve to like خلص يعني, but his jokes are funny. انه
He is.
يعني and during the parliamentary elections when he وقتها شبقه لنديم جميل ليك انت خلوك تحكي اصلا انه شيء هيك انه it's hilarious because
Yeah. Well, there's a reason these people got in Paris, because they do have some kind of charisma, some kind of like something to sell, that people bought, and people worship these people. And you,
a
you
lot
got to
of
do
us
the opposite.
these people are incompetent. They're incompetent to run a country.
Mhm.
Yes, sure, they're incompetent running a country because of their corruption, but they're very smart. They're very smart.
They are.
عملوا بانزي سكيم صار لهم 40 سنة. اوكي, فلسوا الدنيا كلها, قرضوا كل المصريات, بعتوهم لبرا, وبعدهم قاعدين, وبعد هلا ما في شيء يتغير. everything مسكج, every single thing بخص بالدولة كلها. it's like how do you say, انه حصروها بيناتهم, and they're getting out of it, and they're gonna get out of it. They're gonna get away with it. And no,
Bro, it's
yeah, the
it's
only
like, the series The Heist.
is Riyadh. لا عن جد, the only person that might get affected is رياض سلامة. And why? لأنه Europe ملحقته, مش لأنه لبنان ملحقه.
Yeah, exactly. International. Yeah. But we can also hold these people accountable ourselves. We have the power to do so. I don't feel as hopeless as as some people can describe it. It's like, yeah, we're always going to be this way. I think, no, Lebanon's a small country, and the population isn't that big. So if you're able to sell a better narrative to, and by that changing beliefs, you can really make a change, and it's not so hard. It's really a small kind. Obviously, I'm saying this sitting in my golden throne, right? But clean your room, as they say. You start from somewhere, and a bit at a time.
The only worry here is
get
that
better.
So one thing that I really noticed, I guess, when I was in Lebanon now, in the summer, is that there is somewhat of a change. It's not necessarily a systematic change or شيء بالدولة. الدولة عم تنهار وخلص, يعني إنه on its last leg. يعني حتى إنه the public sector is donzo. People aren't even going to work. People can't afford to drive to work. Like that's how bad it is. So خلص كل شيء مسكر. إنه when I was there, like, to renew my driver's license, I couldn't do it. To get a passport, you couldn't do it. خلاص, like, everything's done. However, the only change that I can like vouch for, and that can be a big let's say effect and soon, is mindset. At least you have a certain minority. They're not a majority. كمان نحن بالrevolution we weren't a majority, we're a minority. But the mindset shift within that minority, and let's say let's say the people that surround these minorities بلشوا يتغيروا. يعني there's more openness around people. There's more openness regarding religion and belief and identity and choosing how you want to portray yourself or how you want to express yourself. Like in Lebanon before, sure, you had drag queens, you had what's his name, the most famous one out of them all, اللي بلش بلبنان شو اسمه, okay, I forgot his name. Anyways, بس انه ما كنت تشوف مثلا really like drag shows on a weekly basis. You didn't see men in makeup on the streets with long nails going to grab a coffee. Or صار كله هيدا موجود هلا بلبنان, and it's amazing to see. It's so nice. So the mindset, there is a mindset shift, but you just want now the system to follow that mindset shift and not just have it as like a, لانه هو at the end of the day, if you don't have these to follow, هو العالم حيفلوا. يمكن هلا ما فلوا لانه مش قادرين يفلوا, لانه ما بقى في باسبورات, ما في مصاري, ما في. But once they have the opportunity, that's the thing that's going to really hurt the most. And one thing right now to be very mindful of is that when you want to impact change in a country, or you want to like develop it, education is a very important tool. In Lebanon now, it's getting extremely hard to get an education. And that's the thing that's going to shoot us in the leg the most on the long run. People are, kids are dropping out of school. Now public schools are overcrowded because people left, they had to like withdraw them kids from private schools. Now مثلا for example universities are asking for fresh dollars. طب انه ما بعرفهم انا جامعه بكندا for example here in Montreal, if you're let's say a Quebec resident, you only pay 3-4K for a semester, whereas in AUB بيخلعوك ال 15-16 طب how are they going to pay that? How are they going to middle class people have stopped going to university because they can't afford their tuition. And I know people, I have friends and family that needed to do that. So what are you expecting from people who didn't have anything to begin with? No education. It's going to get into, crime rate is going to go up. It started to go up. You can see it every day on the news. Now, one thing that was also very horrible that happened in Lebanon was that an Uber driver was telling a friend of mine انه هو كان عسكري. Usually إذا أنت you're بالجيش أو بالعسكر ما بحق لك تشتغل شيء تاني. خلاص, that's what you do. But because they can't afford to give them salaries anymore, they're letting them go and work other stuff. And he was working as an Uber driver. وهيدا العسكري, he bought a gun as a citizen. Okay, معه whatever, a permit or whatever. But he's like, at the end of the day إذا أنا ما عم بيصير لي مصرياتي من الدولة وما عم بيصير لي ما عم بقدر يطلع مصاري, أنا حصير أزعر. أنا ما بدي أكون أزعر, بس حصير أزعر وحامل سلاح. أنا إذا هلأ بنص الطريق حدا إجا وقف بده يسرق لي سيارتي, إيه بقوصه. This is the mentality that you have right now. So
they're kicking in survival mode, and it's just like
survival mode.
It's going extreme.
تلني لا يطلع.
The purge.
Purge, exactly. It's a purge. And that's like that's the most scary thing يعني هلا that we just need to monitor. إنه أنا لإلي my move to Lebanon was very important, just also for my work, because Lebanon is one of the most interesting places right now in the region to be, or like in terms of news. So but at the end of the day, how bad is it gonna get? And no, it could plunge into like really like a lot of violence.
I feel like one of the reasons why there isn't any drastic change being taken is due to the age. Like one of the reasons is due to the age of these so-called targets that we would have. Most of their leaders are like their 80s. Okay, some they have they're grooming their sons and whatever, but their sons are not even close to the power capacity of their of the elders.
They're not just
I feel like people are just waiting for them to die a bit, just like خلاص, so we don't have to do it. Hey, because like the war, man, the civil war, I feel like made us too resilient in a way that's like very negative. And what I mean by that is that we can go through so much shit right now, which is happening, and it's even worse than before the civil war started. Yeah, this, and now we're still fighting through it somehow, and we're still not taking drastic change.
Yeah. Can I so interjecting a little bit on the kids angle.
Yeah.
I think this is what they want us to think. صراحة.
Okay.
I think this is what they want us to think. First of all, sure, أنا أولادهم, of course, they don't have as much power or whatever, but if they die, they will have the power. It doesn't take كبلهم $20 للعالم, يلا عادي. إنه you saw it كمان من شي سنتين نزلوا شي صورة شي محل مع داليا جنبلاط with like a horde of people in front of her, وهي عادة عم بتصور إنه just to show إنه هي عندها شعبية. هي عندها شعبية of that. But if you really want to take it يعني down to or like where it boils down to, they are friends, the kids are friends with people who went down on the street and fought for 3 fucking months. Those kids went to CIS or Collège Protestant or whatever, and رابطين مع أصحاب كتير قراب لإلي. They have the same mentality as us. That's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand. I'm not giving the benefit of the blackest, and no, I hate the fact that they haven't renounced the power of their parents. That's bullshit. No, they're not part of the fight. They're not part of the change. But their mentality, no, example, Taimur Jumblat, have you ever seen him wear a t-shirt? No. You want to know why? Because عنده sleeve tattoos من هون ايه داليا جنبلاط ended up marrying a Christian man اللي هو تبع MTV. طب ليه هن اوكي Christian درزة بس انه العالم الباقي لا. You know what it is? And the thing that's the funniest thing of it all. And their kids are pretty much like people who used to go to the same parties as us. They used to, hang out with us, the same drugs as us, and do everything. But when it comes to go back to like their families, no, a lot of them still support their parents, and a lot of them are. They have this like في disconnection. ما بش عم بفهم أنا كيف هيدي بتجي. It's like a paradox عنا بالبلد. إنه بس it suits their interests, it's fine. But when it doesn't suit the country's interests or whatever, it's like they want you to live in fear. They want you to live in manipulation. That's how they can get you to do whatever you want. They want, sorry. So they'll never let these things be okay and normalized in society. But they're high class, they can't, And no, at the end of the day, Kamin, if you really want, if you think about it, the son of Mustashar al-Rais, okay, he works in Greenpeace. كان عم بالثورة كل يوم ما بينزل صورة مع بيو. ليه? Doesn't believe in it. So you have people like that, and you have others that are just fully in it. So when it comes to the kids, it's very tricky. It's very tricky. But I do think that it's more feasible with them than their parents, يعني. So yeah, they can die a little bit. على قولتك.
Oh wow. Well, we're kind of wrapping up on time here. It was we discussed a lot, and I really appreciate your time, Stéphani. Sad, you have a last question or comment before we?
I guess I do have actually one more theory to share, which I saw on Joe Rogan's podcast. His guest was talking about how it's like a power complex thing where if you're in, let's give an example of a relationship. If you're in a relationship where it's like, or like in a job atmosphere where there's something wrong about it and you would like it to be changed, but everything else around you is so content, and it's like for example, let's say if you're in the job, the benefits are good, or in the relationship, the person that you are with is self-sufficient, something like that. So there's like, those things that keep you in that relationship or job.
Yeah.
I feel like the same thing is probably in the mentality of the kids with their parents. Like, okay, what they're doing is bad, but for them, it's like the benefits are good. The perks are good. I get to, like a brand new Mercedes every other year, and I get to have money, and I get to go to the best schools. And so that's why they don't. I mean, they don't have an incentive to stop this.
No, they don't. But I hope they have a little bit of humanity at least, like incentive versus humanity, like, or empathy. And like, come on, man. It's like
unfortunately, that's the world we live in, and I feel for those kind of people, incentive is more important for them. Like for us, yeah, obviously humanity would be more interesting. Like it's something we desire more, but we have to find what interests them, صح? And then we can topple the whole government and take over the country, guys.
And then we can
you figured it out.
A2 the show will become the new rulers of Lebanon.
So actually no, منك مارونة انت مارونة لا
no one knows what I am. So it's not in the constitution. We'll change the constitution as it is. We'll change the constitution. كله.
No, it's funny that the other day I got that comment. Hey, Steph for president. I'm like, أنا ماني مارونية.
That's so funny. Hey, it's the new world we live in, right? With everything, with the education, with the news, with everything, everything's changing. Nothing's going to be the same. The internet's exploding. The world's changing so rapidly. We can.
Be a year for everyone. Hold your horses. It's gonna punch us all in the gut, I feel.
It's coming. The work you're doing and the work we're doing to sell a better story and to, you know, wake people up a bit to a new kind of an alternative kind of thought process. That's huge. And the more people that follow us, it's like a grassroots support, and then they'll never be able to beat us in numbers. Pretty
No,
much.
of course not.
Exactly. And then it becomes a piece of cake. Yeah.
Everything grassroots. Like whole big organizations or no mobilization on a big scale, it rarely has like an impact as much as like you have individuals who are self-motivated and self-driven to really create that change or make that impact or do whatever they're doing يعني on the ground as grassroots. هيدا اللي بيوصل انه هيك صرنا نحن مع مغتربين مجتمعين or else ما كنا وصلنا. انه we were loud بس we were loud شو انه in -11 قدام القنصلية هيك عم مجلدين انه get that it's important, you know, that's grassroots.
Yeah. Give us where can people learn about more about you and your work in Rawiya and stuff?
Sorry?
This is a time for you to plug your work.
We've been talking about my work for the last hour, so I guess for we are launching our 4th issue on January 29th. I haven't announced the date yet, but this is an exclusive. So we are releasing on January 29th. Releasing our new segments in February and in March. We have a lot of cool things coming soon. We've refreshed the team, we've refreshed the content, and we are very excited to bring a lot of cool things forward. As for Immigrant, there's I created a game which will be on sale as well at the end of the month. It's a purpose-driven question game that allows you to have conversations about your immigrant experience and your journey. You play it alone, you can play it with other people, and it'll just help you reflect on, you know, your journey, help with a little bit of processing and healing as well. And yeah, it's just fun to talk about feelings sometimes.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Steph.
That's what we're here for, on the podcast. Let people express themselves.
Now sign out here.
We sign out. Camera, salute to the camera. Peace.